Listen up here. The restaurant industry is grueling and unpredictable, just like this show, from the front of the house to the back of the house and all in between. We will turn up the heat, you turn up the volume. I'm Chef Antonio Caruana. Welcome to the Tell All Podcast, the Burnt Hands Perspective.
This podcast contains explicit and potentially offensive material. You've been warned. Now buckle up, bitches. Let's go.
We are rolling, Kristen.
We are rolling.
We are here. Here we are.
Cheers.
Cheers. So listen to this. 5 seconds of just glory here. I'm going to say this right now, right away. We are surrounded. Yes. I'm surrounded by friggin' powerful women right now.
Yeah, you love it.
I love it. I'm surrounded. So this is the deal here. We have Liana Biscotti from Glasslight, Kura Hill, correct? From Vino Culture, your shop. Bethany Morris here from Luce Secondo, wine director, legend, the myth. Is not a myth, actually. She's right here.
He's here.
Stone cold.
It's okay.
Right? So, and then, of course, we have KC in the place to be, and little old me.
I know.
Tony.
So you're just surrounded by women today.
That's it, right?
Yeah. We thought it would be powerful because when we talked about this show, we wanted to have diversity and we wanted to have a couple episodes where it was really all women in this business who don't represent the majority in a lot of these positions. So this is our first all-female panel, right?
Well, aside from him.
It is. Yep.
No, I mean panel. You are the panel. So he's just a fixture here now.
That's
So
right.
he just has to be here.
I just talk.
He's grandfathered in. He's stuck with us. It's okay.
Bethany, what did you pour, first of all? Let's get to this.
Oh, yeah. Breakfast wine, actually.
Breakfast.
Okay, so
Most
breakfast
Soms
wine.
like to start their day with bubbles if they're not working. So this is actually Cotabasco. It's a Franciacorta from Lombardy. It's actually a Italian sparkling wine made in the same way as champagne. So
And it's phenomenal.
It's beautiful.
Phenomenal start to the day. It's gonna be
Yes.
it's going to be a good conversation. So, a lot of people don't realize, and what I'm so thrilled about all the time, is that I was actually I'm lucky enough to be able to summon up three to what I consider, with all my looks and studies and research, because I'm in the industry. Obviously, I'm always researching my industry at all levels, whether it be wine, food, booze, drinks, whiskey, whatever the subject may be. And I have the pleasure of having three of the most valuable assets to the wine community in Virginia.
Yes.
And I think that anybody who doesn't understand that or doesn't understand the wine quality here in Virginia, they just don't get it. They don't get it. Because the first thing that comes with learning about wines, firstly, of course, obviously, is a palate and the understanding of wine and the passion to go do it. That's the easy part, right? That's the baseline.
no.
No. Well,
not easy
what gets harder though? What gets harder is the maintenance.
Yes.
Maintaining that, striving while you guys all came up and did the thing and went and got to where you are. There's also a huge wave of people behind you. We call that competition, right? So it happens in the chef world as well, where we work, we study, we play, and then we get to where we are. You have a choice. You're either going to be comfortable where you are, or you're going to continue to fucking move forward, right? And set the standard. So doing that as a woman in today's industry with the wine is, tell me about it. Tell me, Bethany, how you feel about it. Tell me, where do you stand on this whole thing, right? Just give me a little background to where you came from.
Yeah.
How did you get to where you are? Where are you sitting now? And then we'll move on. And I'm just really interested in hearing this, and I think everybody else is.
Yeah. So I've been a sommelier. I passed my first exam in 2012. It was an accident, actually. Never thought I was going to end up being a somm. I was actually an assistant manager of a fine dining jazz club. It was in Virginia Beach, and there was a girl who actually was running the wine program at the time. She was like a military brat, and she had been traveling. Her parents were high up in the military. She actually went to a lot of banquets and drank a lot of wine. She was very young, and she was very talented. But she didn't show up for work one day. She was supposed to take this first level SOM exam, and there was no one to take it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
the owner was like, Bethany, you should do it. And I was like, I have not studied for this at all. Like, I'm running people, not wine. So he's like, it's fine. At least you can get the experience. Somebody gets to take
So the test
advantage of
test
it.
was that day, and she didn't show
It
up.
was the next week.
Oh, the next week.
Okay,
Right.
so you had
So I had a week to study. I had grown up in the industry. Like, I've been in restaurants since I was 17. And so I've been around wine, but I hadn't really like studied it as a career. I was used to waiting tables and running the floor. So coming into like specifically wine, it was like, what are we doing here?
So the best part about that,
gosh.
now that you're saying that, for anybody who's been here or if you've even been here, the best thing about Bethany and when you're working is you are geared on wine. That's obviously the deal. But you always revert back to, and you can't stop. If there's no wine to be served, she's running like a wait staff or a SA or a manager or a host or hostess.
I can't sit still.
You can't sit still, but that shows that's where you came from. It's obviously ingrained in you to continue to do that. So I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. And then I actually got the book. I studied as best I cram studied. I was up all night some nights, and then I was like, all right, how hard could this be? And then we get into the first 2 days. There's 2 days of lectures when you're taking the introductory, and then they give you a test. There's no tasting aspect to it. There's just a written exam. And I was like, all right, they told me that this was going to be on the test, filled it out. Lo and behold, a pass. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is cool. And there was everybody was drinking champagne at the end, and they all call your name, and then the people are embarrassed if they don't call your name, and it's just this whole weird ordeal. But you actually get to like meet a lot of people in the industry or people who are passionate about wine. And I think at that celebratory moment, we actually went to Eurasia afterwards and drank a ton of wine and in celebration. And after that, I was like, this is a really cool experience. I got kind of hooked on everybody getting excited about it and the passion for it. And I was like, that's the direction I want to go.
And then it just fueled you. Now you
And
have the fuel.
and now I was like, this
Follow the
sounds
yellow
way
brick road.
better than, doing dishes. So
Yeah.
A little bit,
Yeah,
yeah.
a
So
little bit
12
better.
years
it's a little
later.
strategic in some way.
So with all that being said, you went on, you carried on, you did the level 2, you kept going, and now here you are directing this program, which is amazing.
Yeah,
And just got a Wine Spectator Award. This is your second one outside of here, is that right?
it is my third.
Third.
Yeah.
So it's your third one. So you definitely have the experience, and obviously your passion for it shows, and it's without a question, right? So we'll get more to that in a minute, but let's hear what your story is.
Kara, go for it.
Well, I got into wine at the early age of 18, maybe 19. I went to college at Florida International University, and it's number 6 school in the world, or at least was at the time, for hospitality. I was not studying that, but all my friends were. And so I got to volunteer at South Beach Food and Wine Festival, Angostura Fest, and work all these events. And my friends were studying to become chefs and restaurateurs and hoteliers. And so on the weekends, instead of going to frat parties, we would go to someone's house and do a 5-course food and wine pairing dinner just
You
for
had
practice.
classy underage drinking. Good. Okay.
Wow,
Yes.
we did it very differently.
Wow.
Boone's Farm was that
love
wine?
that.
Yeah, no Boone's Farm
Martins
there,
and
no.
James
Yeah.
Spritzer or
That
something.
wasn't our generation.
No, yeah,
Sorry,
it
we're
was
older, okay? It's
Rita
fine.
and Edie was our wine.
Yep. So yeah, I got into really interesting wines from all around the world, and interesting foods from all around the world. My friends were from anywhere from Ghana to Switzerland to Curacao, Trinidad and Tobago, Latin America, China,
Huge diversity
Russia,
there.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I was definitely in the minority. And so I got to experience food from all over the world, and it really expanded my palate. And so at the time I was working fine dining as well, and I learned, I can make a lot more money if I know how to recommend wines and talk about wines more. And
Say that louder for the people in the back, please. Those people in the back who don't realize that.
Upsell, go
Thank
ahead,
you.
say it.
Yes. Yes, if you don't just take orders, if you know how to recommend wines and create that experience, it does make you a lot more money as a server at the time. So, and then I moved up to DC, and when I had just turned 21, and so I got a job as a cashier at a wine store, Total Wine. So, but I was still asking questions like, what really is the difference between, Bordeaux and Brunello, very different things. And so I hadn't really started studying anything. It was really just all enjoyment at that time. And I fell in love with wine, and then that helped me get on the sales team. So they quickly realized I was passionate about wine, even if I didn't know anything really about it. And so they had me recommending wines on the tasting tables and on the floors. And I had just turned 21, and then I'm starting to host these wine tasting events and classes, and I still don't know anything about it. Meanwhile, I'm getting my degree in economic development of Latin America. So this was not my career choice at all. And end up finishing the degree. They offered me a management position at the time of their #1 wine store in the U.S. and ran their whole education program, traveled to multiple different states training incoming managers about wine. At this point, I know my stuff. I studied a lot. and really fell in love with wine education. But still, it was just a job to pay off my student loans until I get my real job in my real industry. What I paid a lot of money for my career and my degree. And it turns out I didn't want to step behind a desk and do research. And so I ended up giving that all up. And I was like, I really just love this whole wine thing and education and working in restaurants and the hospitality industry and creating those aha moments for people. And so I was in Guatemala at the time, and 2 weeks in, I'm like, I don't want to do this at all. I want to do this wine thing. So I came back early and signed up to take my sommelier exam. I took level 1 and level 2 back to back in the same weekend. And 6 months later, passed the test, something I didn't know I was even interested in. And the rest is kind of history. So.
Crushing it.
Yeah.
Crushing it. That's a great story. Man, what you got? Where you at?
Very different. That was so awesome. I just learned so much about you. I actually, I'd never really thought that wine was going to be my career either. I don't think that anybody just kind of, I think very few people set out and they're like, wine is what I'm doing. I was restaurant my whole life. I've never done anything else. I started working in restaurants when I was 15. I've worked in sports bars and tequila bars and beer bars, and I've done pretty much everything. And and I've always kind of been around wine. I've always liked it. I went to University of South Carolina and studied Spanish and Latin American studies because I wanted to learn about culture. I wanted to learn about different cultures. And for me, when I found wine, I was like, oh, that's such a cool way to learn about culture, because it's not just wine that you're learning about. You're learning about geology, geography, climate, food. You're learning about so much when you
say
start
that
learning.
because when I was studying for my level 1 thing, I was so intrigued by things I was learning outside of the wine.
Right.
I'm learning about little sayings in life, like a man is worth his salt, and where those expressions came from the Roman colonies paying people with salt via the wine trade.
Yeah.
There was so many things I've learned from it. There was so many little, like you said, tidbits of stuff that you're learning that doesn't really even pertain to wine, but it was things you knew all your life.
Somehow does.
I didn't know it came
Yeah.
from wine. I mean, it's crazy.
Exactly.
Right on.
And,
Yeah, it's
and so when I started at Bird & Baldwin in 2018, I think, somewhere around there, and the manager at the time was like, Leanna, why don't you have your sommelier? Like, why don't you have this yet? And I was like, I don't know. I just don't have it. And he's like, well, you should go for it. Just
And that was
try
a
it.
good restaurant to get that.
Really great, because I mean, Bird & Baldwin, beautiful restaurant, really high exposure to very high quality, very high end wine. So you get to see those first growth Bordeauxs. You get to see those like aging moments and really have access to a lot of wine that a lot of people don't have access to. So I was really, really lucky in that particular situation. But I got my level 1, and then 2 months later, I got my level 2, and waited a few years, and then finally I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try WSET and see what it is and see how I like it. And WSET 3 took me like 2 months, and hopefully I'm going to do my French wine scholar next. But it's just always, there's just so much to learn. And I'm somebody who, if you're not learning, you're not growing. And like you were saying earlier, you get stagnant and you start losing it and you start losing that passion. And so being surrounded by wine, which is so ever changing, you're constantly growing because you're constantly
And surrounded by wine drinkers and wine,
Yes.
purveyors and wine enthusiasts.
And you can learn from everybody that you meet. And even if they, might not have the certifications that you do, like you can learn from anybody, because, my old boss lived in Champaign. He grew up in Champaign. Of course I'm going to learn something from him. I grew up in Chesapeake.
Chest pain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
definitely not the same.
No.
Well, the funny thing is it's there's so much about wine to know, like you guys, you understand, and you just said it. There's so much to learn about it that it's almost discouraging sometimes for someone like me. I went and got my level 1 just to have it. Here I am with my little pin on, feeling cool, right? But there's so much to learn that it's almost intimidating to the point where if it's not your chosen profession, you almost lose focus on it, because it's like looking over the horizon saying the earth is round or it's flat. You don't really know. There's so much out there. And that's the part of wine that is so impressive to me. And people who study it, gain from it, and grow like you guys do is just crazy to me. It's amazing. What do you guys think about as far as like, we were talking about a minute ago, and everybody's path is different, but kind of the same. It all comes around diversity. It comes around your passion for it. It comes how you were introduced to it. So something was said earlier too about how it's not really it's not a profession you go after, right? Me, myself, I never thought I'd be into wine. I fell into wine quite by mistake as well. I was working at a restaurant as a chef. I was just tired. I was young, probably in my mid-20s, early 20s. And one of the wine reps was in there, would come in all the time and talk. And I got to talking to her all the time. And a position came up in their thing, and I was tired. And she said, why don't you come? You'd be a great salesperson. Why don't you come learn about wine? Boom, there's my story. So I went with Associated Distributors at the time, and I was working for them, and I had the Oceanfront as an on-premise account as my first account, their biggest account. So it was really fun. I got into it really deep. I went there about three years, maybe something like that. Then, of course, I got back into the kitchen because I was, at the time, way too young for that type of responsibility, way too young for those numbers, way too young to understand what it meant to restaurateurs who were counting on me. I'd rather be surfing than putting in my numbers before noon. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of problems I had with it, understanding it. And now that I'm older, looking back, I realize the importance of this. I mean, the importance of a good wine rep or a good salesperson or a purveyor or a somm in a restaurant. It's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, shout out to all the wine reps that help us out because they are the unsung heroes that keep us straight sometimes.
Yeah, no.
And they're some of the most knowledgeable people in the industry as well.
Yeah.
This is what they do every day just alongside us. They don't have a pin, but some of them do. But they're incredible people to work with. Or they can break you as a somm. And you're like, my event was counting on you. And
Yeah.
True.
where did the delivery
true.
go?
Oh,
Yeah, well, why is this not my delivery?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yep, no doubt. So what do you feel, Bethany, about the is there, I know there is, but what's with the being a woman in this industry? Are you comfortable? Is it a comfortable place? Has the wine world accepted women to your guys' level of knowledge in it? Or do you feel that there's still a struggle with that as far as having to work through that, push through that envelope or break through that glass, if you will? You know what I mean? Or
Yeah, this is a really complicated subject for us, I think.
it's a great one, though.
It's
It really,
a great subject to talk about. I feel honored to be on the panel for it because we've lived and breathed this, I think, every day since we chose wine or wine chose us, as the story goes. But I would say being a female in the industry, we are very blessed in our generation a little bit. There has been a lot more acceptance and growth for women in wine. There's forums, there's organizations now. There is a lot more platform for women in wine. I think that's happened in the last 10 years, specifically in our field. But it's always been a conversation around a boys' club being a somm. It's definitely been more of a man's world, even as a wine rep. And I would say there was a big shift of that right around COVID, when there was actually an article that came out in New York Times about it. There was a little bit of controversy and scandal that came out. But there was also kind of this realization of like, okay, these women are actually some of the most educated because you have to like be tough, put yourself out there, take a lot of criticism. Oh, you don't know anything. How could you like, and if I've got it a lot myself of like, oh, that's really cute. They let you do that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Sorry.
God, triggered much. Yes,
Yeah.
I know. I think it's really interesting because
is that more the men saying that to you feel, or women say it too?
I think it's people at a table. There's more of, and I would say it comes from more of a lack of knowledge of what we do combined with what they've seen in the media. So it can be just misinformation a lot of times. We usually try to hospitably skip over it and get back to the subject of wine a lot of times, or I do specifically myself. But I would say that there is a little mystery to what we do as a career, but there's also a big documentary that came out in 2013 called Somme, which kind of put a platform for what somms do as a career out. And it was all men in this movie. And it was like, oh my gosh. And there was this huge jump to sommeliers being in the limelight, and everybody started wanting to go pass an exam.
Yep.
There were people from DJs to people from like anywhere not related to restaurants. People were jumping in on the sommelier train.
Jumping the trend, right?
Yeah.
Trend jumping.
And wine is always about trends, honestly.
Sure
It
it is.
comes and goes. But I think there was just this like huge influx of sommeliers, And the court ended up moving towards a situation of like, okay, we really want to focus on the people and change the exam forum to focus on people who are actually studying wine, and also towards the format of people who are in restaurants. I think that was more of a pillar they took. CMS took more of this approach to, it's geared towards people who are actually running programs. And more of the exams came about that. And I would say there was this big flip and influx of somms into the market. Every restaurant had a somm at one point, whether they were a hipster somm or the very polished. Everyone had to have like this like media presence of who they were as a somm. And I think that
Sounds like the chef world.
yeah, it was like Food Network. It just kind of
Put on a
blew
leather
up
apron, and
it
all of a sudden
bubbled.
you got 5 Michelin stars.
Yeah, and there was a big conversation about with closer to COVID, and this is a kind of a touchy subject with, I would say, the article that came out is like there was this whole big New York Times article that came out on the upper echelon of the mega somms, I like to call them, or like the big like old guard of sommeliers who were kind of using their platform to
Take advantage
of people.
And let's be honest, that was that was men.
Yeah.
It was
That's what
all
we're saying.
men.
It was all men. So the old guard is the men. That's what we're talking about. Is the women coming up underneath them.
And there was this article that was put out saying that females were like very excited. And it's not even pertaining to one sex. It's like you want to be around these master somms because once you get up into higher credentials, you have to be mentored by one. You need to have somebody in your corner to pass an exam that's like 6% passing rate. And so you're trying to, when you have a bunch of these somms that now flooded the market in every town, they're making a huge amount of money off of these exams. Are not cheap by any means. I mean, and they're all self-paid, and all of our
for a reason.
yeah
100% chance of doing it again.
and
Yeah, pretty
and
much.
there was this
Paying
like
twice.
everybody wanted to get a credential. It gave them like some sort of platform now, and I think there was this like huge push from a lot of people to get in tasting groups. So there's always good and bad that comes out of situations like this. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of females who came out and spoke about the fact that they were excited to go and meet these master somms. They were excited to be under some sort of mentorship. And then it was flipped to where they felt like they were powerless unless they were being taken advantage of in some regard. Now, that's how the article came out. This is what I read. This is some personal experience I've gone through with some of the people mentioned. But I don't think that I've ever been somebody. I think it goes back for me where they always said, don't sleep with somebody you work with in a restaurant. This is like real restaurant talk right here. It's like, don't sleep with somebody you work with. And so it's like, I've always been the kind of the person of like, I want to keep that out of work. And so I've never gotten like, the only people I think I would get celebrity starstruck over was like particular winemakers that I find their product to be incredible. But other than that, it's just people at the end of the day that we're working with, and they were somewhere in my journey along the way. And maybe I just kept trailing on, so I'm going to stop.
So you never took the bait.
You never
to that degree.
dipped your pen in
No.
the Coney ink. Yes.
Kerr, what about you on a retail level? So you're in the store, you're doing your thing, which is awesome. You're well known. Everybody knows that downtown. Do you feel the same thing when do you get a lot of male customers coming in and rely on you? To talk about that.
Yeah, I think that my first experience in the retail world getting like discriminated based on my sex was a coworker who we became friends later, but this very ogre Frenchman. And so at one point I'm like stocking wine and I broke something and it shattered all over the place, and I'm cleaning up and he comes up to me and he puts his hand on his apron and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm cleaning up. Apparently I'm not very good at this whole wine thing, but I'm good at cleaning." And he goes, "Well, maybe you should stick with what you know best." And I was just like this, very much like,
Yes.
"Oh, okay,
Asshole,
yikes."
thanks.
And he, he'd make comments regularly about like, "Well, what do you know? You're a woman." And so I like really like that was the first time being so like blatantly obvious.
And what
like,
year was this?
Oh, this was close to 18, 19 years ago. So this is a long
Okay.
time ago. Yeah.
Right. Well, at least there's that excuse. It was still maybe a little
Yes.
longer.
Yes.
Maybe it was a tail end of that.
And this is way before Me Too or anything like this.
Yeah,
This is not this is not a time of the year where you can or a time of the season that you could go and make a complaint about something like this. So you just suck it up and grin and bear it and work harder. And that's, I think, our superpower is if we grew up in the industry before Me Too, you did learn to grind. You just learned to work harder, hustle more, and prove everyone, and it became the superpower, I think. So, and we got that benefit from the people who came before us, so it gets passed down. But so I think when I was younger, and I was 24, managing a wine store, and every single employee was older than me. And the customers would come in and they'd be like, can I speak to the manager? I'm like, that's me. Well, what about that guy over there? And he would, point to the guy with the white hair and the apron and stuff like this. I was like, I just hired him. Yeah, I'm training him right now. So, it took a while for me to get taken seriously.
You think is that a woman thing or is that an age thing?
Both. Yeah. And
so?
I think, yeah. And now I am well beyond my 20s, so I don't think people say those things as much anymore.
Yeah.
And now it's I think there's a lot more curiosity. The movie, Somme, that came out really struck a lot of people by surprise about how much work goes into this. It's not just drinking all day, although cheers to being able to do that sometimes. Call it work. But it's so much work involved and so much study, and so I think people take Sommes more seriously now, and a lot of interest into it. And and I think post Me Too movement, there's just a lot more recognition for what's not acceptable, and how much women have had to work harder in the move to get ahead, and to prove themselves. Both to themselves, like I do on a daily basis, and to other people around. And I think the next generation, they're not going to lead every article with female Somme does XYZ.
Yeah.
That still says something today. And I am hoping that the next generation, that will sound as weird as today an article saying male Somme does XYZ. Yeah. That sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
I think the next generation is definitely gender fluidity, nothing really matters. And so I don't think we're going to have articles
As
that
much
start with the term female Somme or female chef.
Also, because you got to remember one thing, not only is it that, but the people who are writing these articles are also diversified.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too. So that's in everybody's corner as well. That's a good point. Leon, what do you think about that?
Well, so no, I agree. I think Somme, I remember watching it the first time and being like, oh, that looks really hard. And, I was part of the way through my journey, but not really that far in. And I'm somebody that if you tell me I can't do something, then I'm going to do it just to prove you wrong. And I remember this one person, and this was another woman, which, this sucks even more, honestly. It's kind of shitty when another woman is coming down on you, because you're like, okay, well, we're supposed to be playing for the same team, but that's cool. She told me one time, she said, you're never going to make it in the industry if you, because I was a cigarette smoker at the time. I've been off cigarettes for 10 years now, which is great. But at the time I was a cigarette smoker, and I passed my level 1 and 2 with a smoker's palate.
Wow.
And she said to me, you're never going to make it in the wine industry. And I said, okay.
Just tell you, you're never going to make it in the cigarette world.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, let me call my
Look
friend
who's
Marlboro.
Tell you, there are so many Sommes who still smoke.
Exactly. And it's just really wild to see how much goes into it, and how much that we have all individually put into it. When I was studying for my level 2, I lived in my own apartment. I had wine maps from Wine Folly on every bit of wall in my living room, and I would pull my couch off of the wall and I would look at the wall while I was studying wine. And that is how I studied.
You have like the in the movies with the serial killers with the string and the rope
string.
and all that shit.
It was a little bit Charlie Day. Yes, it was very much It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in my apartment. But we got there. But you get people talking down to you all the time, and both men and women. You get older people, younger people, and they're like, I remember months ago now, but people will be like, "Oh, you're the Somme?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Question mark?
Are we only speaking in questions right now? Because I can do that too. And I have 6 brothers, so I'm pretty tough when it comes down to it. And like I said, I started in sports bars. So
Well, you are also in the bar business.
Right.
You aren't in restaurants. You are in bars.
Exactly.
Total difference when it comes to clientele and what you have to deal
Oh
with.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm ready for it.
Now you guys are talking about your growth and how you came up in this, and it's amazing. It's great, and everybody listening to it's just probably wanting to hear more. So they're going to track that down, right? But what I see is a group of people, including yourself, Casey, that we have all came up kind of in the same time frame a little bit. We all kind of grew in the same type of era, right? So I'm looking at it. I think I was telling you this earlier, but I'm looking at it like you ladies are like the ghosts of Christmas on.
Oh yeah, he has this analogy
my
for the
analogy
3 of
for
you,
this.
so I can't wait for you to hear
So-
this. Are you ready?
This is
Okay.
great, right? So this is you guys are like the ghosts of the what's the freaking show? Christmas Carol, right?
Christmas Carol. So
Charles Dickens. So
Charles Dickens.
we
This
have
is-
the
yeah.
ghost of the past.
Oh God.
Because Leanna knows me from the past. She
Like-
knows my
like
craziest.
past.
You've seen me at my
Air
craziest.
quotes.
Oh, you've seen me at my craziest.
Yes,
too, so.
it's fucking amazing. And we had some. I mean, we're talking about street level
Rager,
shit.
yeah.
She's seen me at my craziest, right? So she's the ghost of Christmas past, right? She sees me at my most passionate, probably most
Now.
growth in my most assholist, right? So I have my
We're gonna call it driven and ambitious.
driven and
so
okay?
ambitious,
right
but
now.
she also sees me in my good too. And I've known you since when you first started at the Maine. Right?
Yeah.
Before, I think you were still in the wine shop when I met you
Yeah.
at the time in Chesapeake. So you came up from there. So you in watching you grow and then growing with me here, which has been exciting and amazing. And that's just so fucking cool. So you're like the ghost of the Christmas present. You're right here.
Okay.
You're right now. You got it. And me and her go back a ways when you were back at Press.
Yeah.
And I knew you from then, but yet we've never had that actual connection. So I love to see what you're doing because now you're working with some of my employees or people or team downtown. Peter goes there for the wine tasting. So does Chris, I believe, stops in.
Yep.
And some of my people from here. Don't some of our guys go there for the blinds?
They have, yeah. I've been to her shop too.
You do
for
too.
some
So,
of
yeah,
the
and we
blinds.
went there for a tasting. So I plan on seeing you a lot more in the future now because of this, just a relationship. So you're like the ghost of the future, right?
So
here.
congratulations.
So I'm gonna wake up and be
Yeah.
like, "Is it Christmas morning?
Chains?
Go get a fucking goose." You know what I mean? There's no goose for sale, but you know what I mean. It
We'll
is
get
what it
some
is.
champagne instead.
We'll bring the
Yeah,
Pinot
some
Noir for
champagne.
the pairing.
So
I rein him in.
back to the women and how you guys did, how you guys are. Let me be honest with you. This is how I look at it. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was never a guy based on sexism. I never really believed in that. I guess I was just introduced to life differently. I was in the military where women were master chiefs or whatever it may be. I was never really held down. My mother was a beast anyway. My sister's very dominant. So I was always around strong women. My aunts, my grandmother, very dominant, strong Italian women. And right now I can tell you this. As time went on, I feel when it comes to wine and doing my thing, I'm a lot more quick to go directly to a woman, Somme, than I am a man.
Yeah.
Whether it be a woman sales rep, a woman just in a discussion. And this is truly how I feel because the pretentiousness is not there. When I go deal with men, I want to smash them. A lot of the guys I want to smash because a lot of them are trying to sell you.
Ego.
Listen to me. They're trying to sell you their opinion
Yeah.
and they're not trying to explain to you why. They're not teaching you what it is or the reason why they're thinking the way it is. They're trying to explain to you why you should think the way they are. And I realize that shit. So I have a very low tolerance for that period,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of the wine somms now that are guys typically aren't, whether they're somms or not, they're very pushy. They're very demanding. You got to have it like this, but I don't want that. I'll tell somebody I want a nice gattinata, and they'll bring me a Sagrantino because that's what they want. And I'm like, but that's not what I wanted. I asked you what I wanted here. Sell me what I want here. Do you have anything in the back? And they still want to push what they want to push and convince me. Whereas women will be like, oh, gattinata, huh? Let's do this. I have this, and this. So I'm a lot more quick to go to a woman. A woman's palate's a lot more delicate these days. It's a lot more, unless I'm talking about, I don't want to push all men down the easy way. I'm not like that either. But it's to be honest with you, sitting here with you guys talking about wine is a lot more comforting to me than going to find 3 guys to sit here and talk about wine.
Yeah, it would be a
Because
different
It
conversation.
would be a different conversation. It wouldn't be
tone.
about wine. It would
Yeah.
slowly go away and you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
It gets into that little what you said, what you avoided, the frat boy party a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think that women, I mean, any industry, so it's not just wine. So any male-dominated industry, construction, medical, any of those.
Anything.
Women have to work harder to prove themselves. So therefore, they make better team members, better employees, better long-term everything because you have more to prove. And even though it has changed a lot in the past 10 years, I mean, I call it digital Darwinism, where we're advancing faster than we are capable of keeping up with. So as a society, we are trying to process all of this diversity and inclusion, but deep down, we still have our core, wiring, and that's still hard to overcome. So like the visceral reaction you had is very, like, that's visceral for a lot of people. Like if you say it's a woman, they're like they always, there's something that's going to happen. Yeah. But I think that it's helped a lot. And I mean, listening to you guys talk, I always felt the same way. My mom was very chauvinistic towards men. She's like, men really can't do shit like that I can't do. So I was raised to do everything a man could do, which included hard everything. And so I never had that issue.
I don't know women outside of that.
Yeah.
All the women I'm surrounded by are that way.
We're not normal. I mean, we know that.
Maybe you are normal, and I don't know. Maybe the guys who are bitching about it are the pussies who ain't normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and if
I
guys
agree.
say that, if guys say and look at me and say I'm just saying that because they're here, fuck you.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. If you don't like it, come fight me. You know where to find me. Just to go online and fight me. I don't care. I'm telling you right now, I think that.
It's okay. Trust me, I'm here. This is the most wild show we've had so far, so we're fine. You guys are fine.
No, but the bottom line is that's how I feel. I'm not saying it for any other reason. It's our show.
Yeah.
And we invite who we want on the show, who we feel comfortable talking to on the show. And there's not three men sitting here talking about wine with me. And I don't think that'll ever be the case. Individually, possibly, but as far as a panel, I'm not interested. Yeah. I've already heard of it. You listen to them all anyway. They just repeat each other. James Salkin, all these guys. Great. Okay, good. You got it going on. Dude, all you have to say is, it's fucking good. You know what? 98. Everyone shits their pants and goes home. End of story. Because that. Now, if a woman were to say the same thing, how much more research would have to go into that to believe her? Or, you know what I mean? I get it. And I would probably believe her first, just because you have to feel you work for it, so you're going to. So it's not going to be a false ass bullshit. People got to have respect and pride in that. And I don't think they understand that.
I think we need to talk about the money aspect of this too. Is there still a lot of discrepancies that you guys see in the industry between male and female somms?
Yes.
As far as pay and
Not currently, thank you very much.
But I mean, in general, overall, I mean, what have you seen?
Yeah, absolutely. The last job that I held, I was managing and also the Somme. The next person that got hired after me, which was a male, was paid $20,000 a year more, and they didn't even have the same credentials.
Wow,
so that was interesting.
Yeah, that's a kick in the ass.
I just don't. I cannot fathom it.
It's sad.
I can't fathom it. I understand what you guys are saying, and I hear it, but I've always had a hard time grasping this because I've never been exposed to it, and I look into it, and I just don't fucking understand it. Yeah. If you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about, what is the problem here? I don't get it. How somebody can make such a, it pisses me off. Yeah. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it. I never.
Currently, I get paid more because I'm a woman, but I'm self-employed. So,
but you own your job, so you took a different path. I mean, you went into retail.
From Kara.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Kara, let me ask you this question: you do the wine dinners over there? You work with a chef, so you're tasting. Me and Bethany work together often, pretty much every weekend on doing something as far as the specials and coming together with wine. Doing a tasting. We have a really nice wine dinner coming up here 2-3 weeks. October 29th. We have a huge Plump Jack Cade wine dinner. It's going to be really nice. So we have the privilege of talking to each other and feeding each other off of our passion, right? I love wine, but I love food more. She loves food, but loves wine more. Am I safe saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so together with that combination, we come up with some shit. Do you ever miss that?
Oh, every day. Yeah, I miss the collaboration. I miss working with food. As a retailer, I get to send people home with their bottles, and I always tell them, take pictures. I want to see where my babies end up. But in the restaurant world, you get to pour it for them at the table and watch the bite sip interactions and their eyes
Yeah.
kind of widen a
fold.
little bit and their jaw drops, and you can see them sink a little bit. And I miss those experiences.
And working with a
for
chef
sure.
to taste the flavors and go over it.
And the collaboration of just integrating flavors, and not only the food making the wine better and the wine making the food better, but also the chef making the somm better and the somm making the chef better. We are forced to hone in our skills more when we collaborate with other people that are in a similar field that are just as talented, and a knife sharpens a knife kind of thing.
Exactly. So speaking of Bethany, because she's here,
Hello.
we have a really
here.
good connection when it comes to the food and wine. Okay. And I can say this right here, right now, that you have helped me educate my palate, or not so much educate it, but test it. Bring it to places I wouldn't, because I want to make sure that I can produce something that she's going to be excited about. And it also excites me to get something going. And we'll just go off of description, and then she'll come back in the middle of me cooking my special. Sometimes you'll bring, taste this with that.
Try
Taste
this.
it with it now. Taste it with it now, and I'm so rewarded by it,
Got
because
her hand in the pot.
She's like, here, I'll just feed it to you. Here, you're fine.
But an hour into service, 13 specials sold already. I'm finally tasting it with it, and I'm like, oh my God, thank you. It worked. Not only did it work, but it worked way better than we
beautiful,
thought.
yeah.
And then I'll say, no, you taste this.
Yeah.
Get that over here.
experience.
Taste this demi with that. And she'll be like, all right,
That
God, we're fucking doing it. And it's a great time.
Yeah.
It's instant reward. And I always think about that with your position as far as being in that type of shop. But you ever want to come and hang out with a chef and come and hang
You
out
just
with
be in the
us?
kitchen. Just
Come hang out
here.
with us,
Yeah,
and we can
great.
do a collab like that. It would
be
be a lot
awesome.
of fun, and that goes for all you guys. I think it would be wonderful. When I went to see you at the restaurant the other night, you hooked me up beautifully with that nice wine. Everything, I knew it. As soon as I walked in, I'm like, all right, I love it. I love the stories. I love everything. Tell me what we should do about. Is there any way we can get? We said it at the beginning of this show, kind of beginning, how no one walked into this job knowing it was a job, right? How does that happen, where we could make it that way, and where do you think it could go from there? Right? You get to the level where you almost hit the top of where you can be, right? So what about wine is going to go into the future? What's going to come back? What's going to go around? Each of you give me 2 minutes of what you think of how you can get it going. Can you bring younger women into it? Can we bring younger men into it? It's not all about women either. I sound like I'm bashing dudes. I'm fucking surely not.
No,
but
you're
I'm also,
empowering women, and
but I'm not bashing
Nobody's
dudes
gonna
to do
hate
this.
you for
Look, I
that.
got this thing. I went and did just to have fun doing it, and I did it. And I'm not going to go any further with it, because I cannot compete with you guys. My passion is in that kitchen. I love wine. I drink wine. I need to know enough about it because I own a lot of it, and I want to sell it, and I want to drink and compare it. So I did what I had to do. So I can't bash men who are going further than me, but I definitely ain't going to bash the women who have gone further than me. That's crazy. So what do you think could happen? Young girls coming in, young people coming in. How do they go after the wine industry without having to learn about it by mistake?
Well, we actually have been hosting classes here with the teams from both locations to be able to further their studies. So I teach classes on Tuesdays for those pursuing their exams or who want to further their education.
And it's not just a normal class. You're doing a phenomenal job. This is a bang-up class. This is a really good, this is basically a mini seminar that you're doing.
Correct.
But for
yeah.
people not in the area, you can always go to your local restaurants,
I
find the
send
good
them
places, and
to
ask,
Kira a
and
lot.
shops.
I send them to Kira. Crystal Shad's also a phenomenal person who's
Yep.
running WSET
Crystal's
out
great.
of her shop. So for those who are not in the industry, there's now shops who are actually taking up that responsibility, because there's a lot of complexity doing tastings in busy restaurants of having to take seats out of the dining room, put those in, establish tastings in it. We'll probably be having some on the patio coming up in the next year, which is actually being built right now, which is funny. But I think as a Somme, we're focused on expanding sales in the restaurant. So that comes from educating the staff themselves. And it's really interesting we're having this conversation about women in wine because all of the people in my class are male.
All of them.
Okay,
All of
so
them
there's
are
no other
male.
females right now.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. So you got to show up at your
And-
local
I need that
wine
show
shop.
up,
Start
girls.
drinking.
But not only are they males in her class, they're males with a rate of success. So
Yeah.
they started with nothing, meaning a credential, and they're all at least level 1 right now, most of them. And the ones who aren't are going. And with your help on your blinds at your shop that we send them to, or she sends them to, I absolutely agree with them. And I talk to Peter and Chris about this a lot. you guys are putting something together that is going to benefit this area. And that's why I started this conversation up by saying you guys are some of the most important people in the wine industry because you're actually giving back to it. And if anything were to happen to you tomorrow morning, you can say I did my part.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think the biggest conversation over females versus male somms is really honestly because we've had to like fight this fight not only for the education but also to overcompensate for this kind of idea that we don't know enough. When we have the credentials, it's like a double-edged sword. You're like dealing with two factors at one time. I cannot tell you the amount of people who've compared me to another male somm in the area or like, oh, did you study under him? Do you know him? Or I was like, no, I've done this path. Oh, well, he's the best. And it's like, well, who is the best? We all have the same credentials on paper. We've had more experience in the years than others, or some more than others, which I will always give credit to. But I think for me as an approach for a somm is like, we still have our own palettes and we all have our own sales technique and we all have our way of like presenting wine to people. I always have come from a background of community. You can't build a somm without community. You like all of your exams and everything that you do are self-paid for, self-study. There's no like, you don't go to college and study wine in a lot of the industry raising. So it's all self-study. It's all and we will mess up because it's like, does this work? Does this not work? And especially in a smaller area where there's a less like somms per capita, you're reaching to outside cities to bring that here for that education. Yeah. And so it can be quite intimidating on a lot of factors because you're actually like studying outside, bringing it in, and also facing this, like bringing this new idea to a restaurant that even here, like I've never had a sommelier before. Like, what do we do? I don't want to talk to you. I'm intimidated. I'm like, no. This is about hospitality and this is about making you have a great experience, mini vacation from your day. Yeah.
I think you need to step out of your comfort zone to learn more about wine anyways and go to nicer places.
And it is intimidating.
It is. It's different. It can be, but
it's in all different languages. Yep. It comes in every shape and size. There's so many factors.
Making someone comfortable is the key. That's the key. Don't make them feel bad for what they don't know. Make them feel
don't make them feel stupid. It's like your first day in the gym. You don't want it to be bad. But
what do you say to? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say I want to get feedback from both of them before we run out of time. So just on the industry advice to people who are coming up, what you think they should try and do and where they could reach out.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. That's always been the mission statement of Vino Culture is the people I'm employing. Honestly, I have generally no wine credentials, and I want to train someone up. It's a lot easier than untraining bad habits in terms of like elitist, pretentious culture in wine. And so the first general manager I hired, she's now a certified sommelier. She was zero wine industry experience. The second general manager, she went from level 1 to now a certified sommelier. And all of the women who work, I only actually have female staff who work part-time, honestly really had no experience in wine. And now they're learning and studying and growing. And so I think the key is to get rid of the scarcity mindset of like, oh, if there's another female somm out there, that means I'm not as important or I'm not as special. We need to get rid of that. Like, it's not a scarcity game. It's a collaboration game. And if we all can get over the scarcity mindset and learn to collaborate together, then that's where it's at. So,
yeah. And what's your?
We can all be Somm Barbie. It's okay.
We need a Somm Barbie.
I know.
We don't have that.
We have 3 of them right here.
It's not child friendly.
It's not child friendly.
We're still in the
promoting alcohol. It's fine. Everything is fine.
Well, and on the side of like coming down to other people's level I find it very important. And I actually have a social media platform where I do a little bit of wine education on there as well. And there's a lot of wine educators on social media like TikTok, Instagram, whatever. And I think that promotes accessibility. And I think that's a really important thing too, because when you go into Barnes & Noble or a bookstore and you're like, okay, I want to buy a wine book because I want to start learning about wine. You're facing like the same looking at cookbooks. You're facing a wall of books and you're like, oh, okay. What do I choose? And so I think having those little moments of accessibility of community, because like Bethany was saying, like it's a community. It's not and Tony, I know you said earlier that it's competition, but I don't personally look at it that way. I look at it as, this is a group of women that I can learn something from. This is a group of people I can learn something from. And together we can grow and build that wine culture and wine industry. And Kira's done a great job with vinoculture, like really making a mark in downtown Norfolk. You've done a great job out here really making a mark. And you're starting to see people really get interested in wine again.
Yeah.
And I know like the younger generation isn't drinking as much. Alcohol isn't really a thing for a lot of the younger generation. But then when you start bringing it in to talk about how, a glass of wine doesn't have to be going out for, 10 shots of tequila at the end of the night. It's not the same thing. Like you said, this is the low key show tonight.
This is our much
This is the
lower
chill
key.
show.
We're not drinking tequila on the show, but it is a different. It is culture. I mean, that's what it is. So it does bring people, levels them up a little bit. But yeah, I appreciate all their perspectives.
It's a beautiful thing. So one last question for you. Daily driver, what are you drinking?
My nickname started at the first restaurant I worked at. It's Bubbles, man.
Bubbles?
Yeah.
One in particular?
Anything that's from the area of Champagne and not a Prosecco.
That's your daily driver.
I do. I
love
drink
it.
champagne.
It is. You're right about that. I know
Okay,
that about you.
that's true.
Daily driver.
So I'm currently not drinking at all right now. I'm hardcore training, so electrolytes and pre-workout mix.
Okay.
But if I were to
If
drink
you were,
some Italian varietal that I've never heard of before, just to try a new thing, that would be what I'd go
That's
to.
your gig.
Yeah.
okay.
I love it. Daily driver for you?
This is literally the toughest question you've asked me so far. Like, oh God. I actually do drink a lot of Virginia wine right now. I am really proud
There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm so proud of Virginia as a
Nothing
state.
wrong
We've
with
come
that.
so far. So just coming into the season, I'm kind of like hitting the petite man saying in the Cab Franc quite a bit.
I just
Perfect
picked
place
up
for
some
Virginia.
of that dogwood and thistle.
Yes.
Thing. So
That's such a
good.
beautiful label too, because it's the collaboration of someone from Virginia and someone from Scotland, and that's where the dogwood and thistle
It's so
label comes
good.
from. It's such
a
beautiful product.
Amazing.
I
What
love
about
it.
you?
Oh, God, I drink anything. You know that.
Drink anything. Me, I'm going Nebbiolo
I'm the
all day
most
long.
accepting parent here. I love all my children. I'm fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've never.
I'm a Nebbiolo freak all day long. Typically, a Barolo would be my daily.
Yeah.
Or as you
I'm the
like
one
to say,
bartender on the
Nebbiolo
panel, so
ho.
I just
Nebbi- I'm
drink
a Nebbiolo
liquor.
ho.
So I'm
Sure.
the worst one here.
Definitely.
Hey, we
So
can get
That's
together for
authentic.
tequila later.
I'm gonna end this by saying this because we are running out of time. It's been amazing having you ladies here.
Yes.
Really want to look forward to doing something more, maybe a collaboration, something like that. We can do that and record it, film it, do something
Yeah, we
live.
can do some tasting.
Some tastings. I really want to get out there and get this going out there more to really show these people what you really are.
I think so.
I think a conversation is just a little tiny facet of the whole diamond you guys sit on, and I think it's very important to let it be known. I mean,
This is like just the taste.
I have 2 daughters, and I just hope that women like you can empower them to do what they need to do, whether it be wine or whatever it is they're doing. I'm impressed. I'm intrigued. I'm inspired. So I'm saying that wholeheartedly and honestly. Like I said, I'm fucking surrounded here, so I better watch what I say. But anyway, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Anything closing for you, KC?
No, I just say actually, for all the people who are listening, if you want to reach out and learn more, I'm sure all of these women would love to give you advice, help you out, be listening ear. So, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you online?
Yeah, I have I'm mostly on TikTok, but it'll be and it's also like pop culture and wine, because I think that's
Love it.
like I said, another way
Definitely.
to kind of come down to people's level. But at Traveling Booze Hound, so you can
At
find
Traveling
me
Booze Hound.
Traveling Booze
Got you.
Hound.
I love it.
I go on a
Okay.
lot of road trips to wineries.
That's
Sarah,
fabulous.
what do you got there? You want to
At
plug yourself?
Vinoculture Wine Shop.
At Vinoculture Wine Shop.
Vinoculture
That's your
Wine Shop,
plug.
yeah.
You gotta come check you out
Yeah.
now. Definitely.
Mine's just my name, at Bethany G. Morris.
Yep.
That's on Instagram. But other than that, you'll find me here at Luce Downtown or Luce Granby and Luce Secundo. That's where I'm mostly at.
So if you want a hands-on experience with Bethany, come in here, check her out, let her do her thing, and pay attention to these women coming up in the wine world, because I'm definitely am. I don't think this is gonna be the last time we have it.
Oh, no, it's not. I think this is
So-
an amazing representation. We'll put everything below for everybody that wants to find you guys. And cheers to just a bunch of badass women.
Listen, badass women
Yep.
had me settle down. You guys had me settled today.
Calm today. I appreciate it.
Calm. Cheers. No, really, honestly. Ciao for now, as we say.
Drink more wine.
All right, that's it.
Drink more.